All right, get ready to dive deep into the world of hip hop. Whether you're prepping for a presentation, brushing up on your music knowledge, or just curious about how this global phenomenon came to be, we've got you covered. Get ready for some aha moments as we uncover those surprising origins and key influences that shaped this music and culture.
It's fascinating because hip-hop is often simplified as just a music genre. But in reality, it's a vibrant cultural movement that's had this huge impact on everything from art and fashion to language and social issues.
Okay, so let's hit rewind and go all the way back to the beginning. Most people associate hip-hop with the Bronx, but is that the whole story?
Well, yeah, the Bronx definitely plays a huge role, but it's not the whole picture. Think of it like this. Hip-hop's heartbeat actually started with Jamaican sound systems.
Hold up, Jamaican sound systems. Now, that's not something I was expecting to hear.
Yeah.
Explain that connection.
So picture this. Back in the day, Jamaican DJs would set up these massive sound systems right on the streets, creating this incredible vibe of music and community.
So like a block party, but with that island flavor.
Exactly. And here's where it gets even cooler. These gatherings featured something called toasting, where these MCs would hype up the crowd, chanting and rhyming over the music.
Wow, rhythmic chanting over music. Sounds kind of familiar, right?
Right. It's like the granddaddy of rapping. And one of the key figures who brought this sound system culture to the Bronx was DJ Kool Herc, a Jamaican immigrant.
Ah, DJ Kool Herc, the name's legendary. What made him such a game changer?
Well, his famous Back to School jam in 1973 is considered like a pivotal moment. You see, he used two turntables to isolate and extend the breaks in funk and soul records, creating this continuous loop that just got everyone moving.
So those iconic breakbeats, the backbone of so much hip-hop, came from DJ Kool Herc's skills on the turntables.
Precisely. It was like a revolution in DJing, and it laid the foundation for rapping to emerge as its own art form.
That's incredible. So we're talking about a fusion of cultures and musical styles here, not just some random invention in a vacuum.
Right, and to really understand hip-hop, you have to see it as this multifaceted cultural movement, not just music. It's about DJing and turntabling, MCing and rapping, breakdancing and graffiti art, all these elements intertwined and expressing themselves in these raw and energetic ways.
So it's this interconnected web of creative expression stemming from these shared roots. But how did it go from these Bronx block parties to a global phenomenon?
It was a gradual but powerful journey. From the Bronx, hip-hop started picking up speed, with key figures like Grandmaster Flash and Afrika Bambaataa innovating with techniques like scratching and beat matching.
So the 70s were like the planting of the seed, the spark that lit the fuse.
Exactly, and then boom, the 80s hit and things exploded.
The 80s? That decade was like a cultural earthquake, wasn't it? How did that shape hip-hop's evolution?
One of the biggest shifts was the rise of rap as a distinct art form. Initially, MCs were like hype men for the DJs, but they evolved into these amazingly skilled lyricists, crafting rhymes and dropping them over those infectious beats.
So they went from getting the party started to spitting fire. That's awesome. What influenced that shift?
Well, that evolution was deeply rooted in the rich traditions of African-American oral traditions. Think of things like signifying, the dozens, and jazz poetry. All these forms of wordplay and storytelling that gave rap its unique flow and rhythm.
Wow, it's like all these threads are weaving together to create this tapestry. The 80s saw rap come into its own, and MCs became these masters of wordplay.
And as rap evolved, it became this powerful vehicle for social commentary, especially in those early days.
Right. Early hip-hop wasn't afraid to get real and talk about the tough stuff. Got any examples that stand out?
The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, released in 1982, is a perfect example. It painted this raw and honest picture of life in the Bronx, addressing poverty, crime, and the struggles faced by marginalized communities.
It's like a sonic time capsule, capturing the essence of that era and showing the world that hip-hop had something important to say. It wasn't just party music, it was a voice for the voiceless.
Exactly. It was a wake-up call and solidified hip-hop's power to challenge the status quo and speak truth to power. And that authentic voice resonated far beyond the Bronx, paving the way for hip-hop's global expansion.
So from those early days in the Bronx, influenced by Jamaican sound systems and fueled by those iconic breakbeats, hip-hop evolved into this powerful force of musical and social expression. The 80s witnessed the rise of rap as a distinct art form, with MCs becoming masters of wordplay and social commentary. And all of that set the stage for hip-hop to conquer the world.
It's truly remarkable how a genre born from these diverse influences has maintained such a strong sense of identity and unity across different countries and generations.
And that's exactly what we'll be diving into next time. We'll explore how hip-hop went from those Bronx block parties to global domination, becoming one of the most influential musical forces in the world.
We'll delve into its evolution, diversification, and enduring impact on music and culture. So stay tuned because this journey is far from over. Welcome back to our deep dive into hip-hop's evolution. Last time, we really dug into those formative years in the Bronx, talked about the influence of Jamaican sound systems, and explored how rap emerged as this powerful voice for social commentary. So now let's trace how hip-hop broke out from those local block parties and captivated a global audience.
All right, so we're moving from the Bronx to the world stage. How did hip-hop transcend those early geographical boundaries and grab the attention of, well, a global audience?
It was really this perfect storm of factors. You had those groundbreaking music videos hitting MTV in the early 80s, giving a much wider audience a taste of hip-hop's energy and visuals. And then you also had these larger-than-life figures like Run DMC emerging in the mid-80s, blending rock and hip-hop, creating the sound that was both fresh and undeniably powerful.
Oh yeah, Run DMC, those guys were true trailblazers. Their collaboration with Aerosmith on Walk This Way, that was a cultural earthquake, right? It kind of blended genres and brought hip-hop into the living rooms of people who might never have heard it otherwise.
Absolutely. It was like a major crossover moment, right? It opened doors for hip-hop to enter the mainstream, and as the 80s progressed, we saw this incredible explosion of styles within hip-hop, from the socially conscious lyrics of Public Enemy to the smooth storytelling of Slick Rick.
So it wasn't just one sound anymore, right? There was a whole spectrum of voices and styles, all united under that hip-hop banner.
Exactly. And that diversification continued into the 90s, which many consider like the golden age of hip-hop, You had these regional scenes popping up all over the US, each with its own unique flavor and sound. On the West Coast, you had Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg pioneering G-Funk with its smooth grooves and laid-back vibes. And on the East Coast, you had the gritty realism of Nas and the lyrical genius of the notorious B.I.G.
Man, the 90s were a wild time for music. It seemed like every region was adding its own spice to the hip-hop mix, just contributing to its richness and complexity.
Absolutely, and that regional diversity played a key role in hip-hop's global spread. As different countries and cultures embraced hip-hop, they infused it with their own local flavors and perspectives, creating this incredibly vibrant tapestry of styles and expressions.
So hip-hop became this global language, but with each region adding its own, unique dialect, its own slang and swagger.
Precisely. It wasn't just a case of American hip-hop being exported and replicated. It was a true cultural exchange, a fusion of global influences. You had French hip-hop emerging with its own distinct poetry and social commentary, Japanese hip-hop blending traditional instruments with modern beats, and countless other countries and cultures contributing to this, ever-evolving musical dialogue.
It's amazing how hip-hop has transcended those language barriers and cultural differences, just connecting people through this shared passion for rhythm, rhyme, and self-expression. But with all this diversification and global influence, how has hip-hop managed to maintain a sense of unity and shared culture?
That's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of hip-hop's enduring appeal. You see, despite its many variations and regional flavors, hip-hop has always been about community, about shared experiences, about giving voice to the voiceless.
Right. It started as a way for marginalized communities to express themselves. And that spirit of authenticity and connection has resonated across borders and generations.
Absolutely. It's about pushing boundaries, challenging conventions, and creating something new and exciting. And even as hip-hop has evolved and diversified, those core values of community, creativity, and resilience, they've remained at its core.
So it's a genre that's constantly evolving, yet grounded in these timeless principles that continue to inspire and connect people worldwide. But what about the commercial pressures of the music industry? Has hip-hop managed to retain its authenticity while achieving mainstream success?
That's a complex issue and one that has sparked a lot of debate within the hip-hop community. As hip-hop gained popularity and commercial success, there were concerns that it was becoming too commercialized, too focused on profit over artistic integrity.
Right, that age-old dilemma, art versus commerce. But it seems like hip-hop has navigated those challenges with artists finding ways to balance their creative vision with the demands of the market.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance, but many artists have shown that it's possible to achieve mainstream success without sacrificing their core values or artistic vision. In fact, some artists have even used their platform to address these very issues, critiquing the commercialization of hip-hop while pushing the boundaries of the genre creatively.
So hip-hop has become this platform for social commentary, not just about external issues, but also about the internal struggles and contradictions within the genre itself.
Exactly. It's a genre that's constantly reflecting on itself, questioning its own assumptions, and pushing itself to evolve.
So from those early days in the Bronx to its global domination, hip-hop has shown that it's much more than just a music genre. It's a cultural movement, a form of self-expression, a platform for social commentary, and a testament to the power of community and creativity.
And it's a story that's still being written, with new chapters unfolding all the time.
It's a journey that's taken us from the streets of the Bronx to global stages, from vinyl records to digital streaming, and from breakbeats to... we'll get to that.
Exactly. In our final part, we'll explore some of the recent trends and subgenres that have emerged in hip-hop, showcasing the genre's continued evolution and its enduring capacity to surprise and innovate. So stay tuned because the beat goes on.
All right, welcome back, Doc Divers. We've journeyed from those Jamaican sound systems to the birth of hip-hop in the Bronx, witnessed the rise of rap, and traced its evolution into a global phenomenon. But hip-hop's never content to stand still, is it?
No way. It's a genre that thrives on pushing the boundaries, on constant reinvention. Just when you think you've got a handle on it, boom, it shifts and evolves, pulling in those new influences and creating something totally fresh.
So less old school and more new school vibes for this final act, huh?
Yeah.
What's been really shaking up the hip-hop scene lately?
One of the most prominent trends that's emerged in recent years is trap music. Originating in the South, trap's got that hard-hitting 808 bass, those syncopated hi-hat rhythms, and often these, dark and atmospheric melodies.
Oh yeah, I hear those 808s everywhere these days. From the mainstream hits to underground tracks, trap's definitely made its mark on the sonic landscape. What do you think is driving its popularity?
Well, it's a sound that's both aggressive and hypnotic, It's resonated with a younger generation that's drawn to its raw energy and emotional intensity. Artists like Future, Migos, and Travis Scott have been really instrumental in pushing trap to the forefront of popular music.
And it's not just about those beats though, right? Trap lyrics often delve into some pretty heavy themes: street life, hustling, poverty, and systemic inequality.
Exactly. It reflects the lived experiences of marginalized communities, giving voice to their struggles and aspirations. It's like a continuation of that tradition of social commentary, that's been so central to hip-hop since its inception.
So even as the sound evolves, those core themes of authenticity and social awareness, they remain just as powerful.
Absolutely. And running alongside trap, there's another subgenre that's sparked a lot of debate: mumble rap.
Ah, yes, mumble rap. The one where the lyrics can be a bit elusive, shall we say.
Yeah, that's the one. It's known for its minimalist production, a more laid-back flow, and lyrics that often prioritize sound and mood over clear articulation.
I know some folks dismiss it as lazy or meaningless, but clearly there are a ton of listeners who are connecting with it. What's your take on it?
It's definitely a polarizing style, but I think it's important to recognize that it's really challenging those traditional notions of what rap should sound like. Artists like Lil Uzi Vert, Playboi Carti, Young Thug, they've built these massive followings embracing this more experimental, atmospheric approach to rap.
So it's about pushing those creative boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exploring those new sonic textures and lyrical styles. That spirit of innovation really keeps hip-hop fresh and exciting.
Exactly. And it's important to remember, too, that these subgenres don't just exist in isolation. There's a lot of cross-pollination happening, a real blending of styles in contemporary hip-hop. Artists are drawing inspiration from all sorts of sources, creating these hybrid sounds that just defy easy categorization.
So it's less about rigid boundaries and more about this constant flow of creativity and experimentation.
Yeah.
Almost like a musical melting pot, right? Where everything is thrown in and something new and unexpected emerges.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that fluidity is reflected in how we actually consume hip-hop today. And the streaming services, they've really democratized access to music, allowing listeners to discover and connect with artists from literally all over the world.
Yeah, it's like there's this global network of hip-hop heads, all connected through those shared playlists and online communities.
For sure, and it's created opportunities for artists who might not have had access to those traditional gatekeepers, like record labels and radio stations.
So it's really leveling that playing field, giving independent artists a much better chance to reach a global audience. And with social media playing such a huge role in music discovery, these days, hip-hop artists are connecting directly with their fans, building communities, and fostering this sense of intimacy that wasn't possible before.
Totally. It's a whole new era for Hip Hop One, full of both challenges and possibilities. But one thing is for sure, hip hop's story, well, it's far from over.
It's a story that continues to unfold, rhyme by rhyme, beat by beat, with each new generation adding its own chapter to this ever-evolving saga.
So whether you're a seasoned hip-hop head, or just starting to dip your toes into this incredible world, there's always something new to discover. Some fresh sound, some fresh perspective, just waiting to challenge your preconceptions and reignite your passion for this vibrant, dynamic genre.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into the world of hip-hop. We've covered a ton of ground, from Jamaican sound systems to the latest trends and subgenres that are shaping the sound today. What a journey.
It's been a pleasure exploring this rich musical landscape with you.
And of course, a huge thanks to you, our listeners, for diving in with us. We hope you've walked away with a deeper appreciation for the history, the culture, and the power of hip-hop. Keep exploring, keep listening, and keep that hip-hop spirit alive. Until next time, deep divers, keep those beats bumping and those minds expanding.